Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the drone sightings that have been happening all over New Jersey and the eastern part of the state. There's been dozens and dozens of witnesses posting videos all over the place online of these things. Some people were saying they're like UFOs. Some people were trying to say that they were like, foreign adversaries flying drones over our country, but who's to say yet? I mean, I don't know enough about it. I haven't dug deep into it yet. I know that there's been tons of them spotted flying over the Raritan River and Picatinny Arsenal, and, even over President-elect Donald Trump's golf course in Bedminster. They've also been seen over the coastal areas. Some of them have been recorded following Coast Guard ships. There's a lot of people that are stressed about this because they don't know who they belong to or what's going on. There's speculation as to whether it's like a foreign agency or if it's our government, like the federal government, and they're doing something. Some people think that they are malicious. Some people think that they're kind of like innocuous. I know that the FBI is investigating it, the Pentagon, the FAA, everybody's involved, and there's a lot of folks, including congressmen, that are wanting the military to get involved. Some videos came out recently on TikTok from a guy by the name of John Ferguson, who founded a company called Saxon, which is a drone company. Now, Saxon's mission says to provide dependable, rugged, and affordable remote solutions with cutting-edge sensor technology to the worldwide marketplace. This guy specializes in drone technology. He founded a company that produces drones. Their story: Saxon Unmanned is a manufacturer of long-endurance custom remote aircraft systems with over 25 years of experience in solution development for global air and sea applications. Saxon utilizes advanced propulsion technology to develop aircraft able to achieve flight durations that substantially outclass competitors. The ability of our team to adapt to client and mission requirements and project size results in robust solutions for a wide range of private and public contract opportunities. From project inception through delivery, Saxon is your ideal partner to design and develop turnkey remote systems that maximize your capabilities and potential. Whether the mission goal is security, inspection, asset tracking, and classification, or project progression, successful data collection starts with Saxon Unmanned. Now, John Ferguson, the founder, is a military veteran who has over 25 years of experience in terrestrial and subsea remote system technology in the energy, infrastructure, and security industries, according to their website. Now, John here released some videos on TikTok that have been circulating all over the internet because of the very intense nature of the things that he's talking about. And he's like, I'm not trying to make clickbait. I'm not trying to spread information. Or misinformation. He's like, I'm just trying to talk about I'm just trying to talk about my opinions and what his professional opinions are on it. So without delaying it any further, let's get into it. Let's listen to what he had to say, because he put out a 3-part series on what his assessment of these drones over New Jersey was. And this guy's a professional. He's an expert in the field. And so I'm curious. I've only watched a small portion of this, so I'm curious to see what this guy has to say. So let's check it out, and maybe we can learn something about this together.
Hey everyone, my name is John Ferguson. I'm the CEO of Saxon Aerospace here in Wichita, Kansas. I'm not normally a TikTok kind of a guy. I like watching this stuff every once in a while. But I'm a manufacturer of unmanned aircraft, military grade unmanned aircraft. As you can see, one of my systems here. There's all of these mysterious drones going on off the East Coast, and as a professional, as a subject matter expert, I wanted to give you all my opinion on what I think could be going on with these drones. I don't particularly believe that these have a nefarious intent. I could be wrong, but I want to give you the truth and what I believe. It's my own opinion, and I've not bounced this off of anybody. So, if you think it's bullshit, whatever, that's cool. I don't want to spread misinformation, as we know that there's a lot of that going around. But anyway, back in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan had dismantled the nuclear program, and there were, with Russia, there were countless nuclear missiles that were disarmed and disposed of. Well, there were over 80, I believe. There were over 80 nuclear warheads that were in Ukraine that came up missing. Okay? We don't know where they are. Maybe
80 warheads that turned up missing in Ukraine? This is the first I've heard of that. I didn't realize that was something going on. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, again, this is something this guy's saying. I haven't vetted that information to see whether or not that's true or not. But if what he's saying is true, that's a pretty significant deal. 80 nuclear warheads that are missing.
Maybe somebody does, but nobody really knows where these are. And I speak with some pretty high-level government officials on this stuff, and it seems as though that is the case. So I spoke to a gentleman a few months ago who was trying to raise an alarm to the highest levels of our government, which they had their ears closed, about this one particular nuclear warhead that he physically put his hands on. He physically touched this warhead that was left over from Ukraine. And he knew that that thing was headed towards the United States. Okay?
Your friend, where did he put his hands on this nuclear warhead? That would be my question. Where was your friend exactly?
That is a very serious deal. And everyone knows that the United States government, this administration, is pushing to get into a war with Russia. We all know that. We all feel it. We all see it. Okay? Well, back up a few years. Do y'all remember when those drones were mysteriously flying across the Interstate 70 corridor from Colorado up into Nebraska, down here into Kansas, and out into Missouri? Well, it was believed that those drones were looking for radioactive material because there had been some material that come up missing here in the United States, and they felt like it was high probability that the nuclear or the radioactive material would be taken along the Interstate 70 corridor heading east or west or south. So from what we understand, they were out there trying to find this radioactive material. Now, drones, they have no reason to be in the air at night unless you're doing some type of ISR work, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, looking for bad guys, or looking for a victim, a search and rescue victim, or law enforcement, or some type of military project, right? There's no reason for a drone to be flying at night, really, okay? Because they don't see shit. So, unless you have thermal optics, drones really don't see stuff. You need to do mapping during the day. If you're going to do farming stuff, you mostly do it during the day. The only reason why you would ever fly an unmanned aircraft at night, is if you're looking for something, whether it be a person or trying to smell gas. We have methane gas detection systems that can detect gas leaks in pipelines. You really wouldn't use thermal optics for trying to find gas leaks, just simply because the only way you're actually going to find a gas leak with thermal optics is if the gas leak is aggressive enough that it has a difference in temperature. Because thermal imaging, it creates a digital image based off of the temperature variance. So whatever is different in temperature, it creates an image. Usually gas leaks so slow that it goes quickly into ambient before you can even see it. So we have special sensors that can detect gas leaks. We also have special sensors that can detect radioactive material. So with this gentleman that I had spoken with, who was trying to raise the alarm to try to get somebody in the government to say, hey, we need to work together to go try to find this nuclear warhead, none of that ever happened. They knew that warhead was on its way to the United States. That's all that ever came of it. Nothing ever happened. This government did not do anything at all to help this gentleman raise the alarm and raise awareness that there is a very deadly weapon on its way to the United States. It's out there. Nobody knows where it's at now. It left Europe. Now it's gone. So my own guess, is that these drones are not nefarious in intent. If they are, they are, but I doubt it. But if they are drones, the only reason why they would be flying and flying that low is because they're trying to smell something on the ground. That's it. There's no other reason for a drone to be flying in the air other than to piss a bunch of people off at night.
Okay, so what this guy is saying is that he thinks that the federal government is controlling these drones and that they're using them to try and detect a nuclear warhead that's potentially in the country that came here from Ukraine when they went missing. That's my interpretation of what he's saying, which I think is pretty plain to understand.
That's it. So, my belief is they're trying to smell something on the ground. Gas leaks, radioactive material, whatever. So, and do I think that that they're coming up out of the ocean? No, I don't think so. Drones that are multi-copter type drones, not the the fixed wing aircraft that look like regular airplanes, but the multi-copters, they only have so much battery life. They have hybrid versions that are gas powered with electric, but those can still only fly for a short period of time. There's no way in hell that any drone is going to go miles off the coast as a multicopter and fly into the interior of the United States and do a bunch of work and then turn around and fly back. It's just physics will not allow that to happen. So these drones, I believe, are launched from a location that nobody knows, but I do believe that they're flying low enough that they're just trying to sniff the ground and try to find something. So, again, I hate to be a pessimist or a guy that thinks, directly to the negative. However, I know as a professional, we build professional stuff for the military. I believe that they're actually out there trying to smell something that's very important. So anyway, let me know what you think of this video. I'm not trying to gaslight. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just trying to let people know that this is a serious deal. It's only serious for what the potential could be, or for what the potential is. There's a lot of them out there. They're flying all over. They're flying low. They're flying at night. There's no reason for it other than to smell something. So anyway, God bless. I hope you all have a wonderful Merry Christmas. And let me know what you think of the video. Thank you.
Interesting. Okay. So, yeah, basically to summarize that whole piece, and there's two more parts to this, by the way, which we'll watch as well. But this piece obviously is just him talking about his friend had his hands physically on a nuclear warhead and then it went missing. And I don't know how he got the information that it was transported to the United States or it was being transported to the United States. Because that's a bold assumption. If he's just assuming. I don't think he's assuming necessarily. I think that's probably like information that was passed to him, probably from his friend. Though I don't know who his friend is. He doesn't give up his friend's name or say who he is or which country his friend was in or anything when he was sending it over here or when he got his hands on it. But let's listen to the next piece and see if he goes into detail a little bit more on what he thinks. There's drone assessment part 2.
Okay, so I'm picking up on the second video here. The FAA requires all unmanned aircraft to fly that are flying at night to have nav lights. These nav lights are standard nav lights like you would see on any other aircraft, right? It tells you if you can't see the orientation of the aircraft, then you can see the nav lights and you can determine your orientation of the aircraft by watching these nav lights. But again, the fact that these unmanned systems are using nav lights means that they're complying with FAA regulations, right? So I'll show you what these nav lights look like. But again, they're complying with FAA regulations. They seem to be flying no higher than, say, 400 feet, which the FAA requires any unmanned aircraft with a standard with a standard authorization to fly no higher than 400 feet. That's the law. Those are the rules. And if you violate that, then you pretty much stand the risk of getting your license taken away. All drone operators commercially have to have an FAA Part 107. It's very simple to get. You can go on YouTube and type in FAA 107 study course, and you can go get your go to pay $150 and get your drone license, and you can do this in less than a week, right? So again, they seem to be following the FAA regulations. Okay, so
what that means to me is if they're following FAA regulations, like he's saying, if they are in fact following the FAA regulations and they're staying below that 400 feet and they're running with their running lights, then it's probably somebody that wants to follow the laws and regulations of the United States, which if it's an adversary, they're not going to care about that stuff at all. They're not interested. Or if it was like some kind of unidentified aerial phenomenon, they're not going to care about that either. But that means that it's probably being controlled by somebody that understands, number one, understands what the rules and the laws are, and number two, doesn't want to violate those rules. At least based on what he's saying, if in fact those drones are flying below 400 feet and operating with running lights on them.
I'm going to take this aircraft here that I showed you earlier, and I'm going to put the battery in it. So you can see here that we have standard drone lights, right? Those are the nav lights, and if you're going to fly at night, you have to see those aircraft. You have to see those lights fly, or you have to see those lights from roughly 3 miles. So now we're going to go to the communication system. The communication system is very complex. I don't believe that they're flying from vessels offshore because there's only a few things that you can do with your communications. With a standard radio link, which is C2 and video, command and control and video link, your antennas are only going to allow you to fly so far. Okay? So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to try to do this here. But I'm going to draw a line here. And here you are. Okay? Now, this area here is where your drone's going to fly. And that's with a standard antenna that is kind of directional, moving this way. The other thing we have is a dipole antenna. And that's just a straight up antenna. It kind of just looks like this. You probably have seen them. But they send out a signal like this. And we're using about 1 watt of power. Okay? So with 1 watt of power, with a dipole antenna that sends out a signal of 360 degrees, with 1 watt of power, you may only get, maybe 1,000 yards or maybe 2,000 yards, So you're not going to get very far. But if you go with a directional antenna and you look at like a pie, like this is half of the pie, and your drone's flying out here, okay, you're taking that 1 watt of power and you're sending it out this way. You may be able to fly here, and that will give you maybe a mile, maybe more than a mile. Okay, so having the vessel or the drones flying off miles off the coast is not feasible. The second thing is
the whole flying off the coast not being a feasible thing. One of the reasons he's probably bringing that up is because somebody, I don't remember who was talking about it or who brought it up, but somebody was claiming that Iran had some sort of a mothership that was launching drones from the ocean miles offshore to fly over the United States. I don't remember who it was that said it. I never believed it. I thought that was nonsense. when I heard somebody bring it up to me earlier this week. I think somebody told me on Tuesday that somebody had been saying that was what was going on, but obviously not something that seems feasible or realistic. But that's a key point that he's bringing up.
You have to look at your flight time. You have drones that have gas, like the multicopters, like the one I showed you. They have gas engines that push electric motors. They're called hybrid systems. Still, they may only get really roughly 90 minutes of flight time. Okay? So now, the other thing you can do with your antennas is here you are. You can go at a 45 degree. Okay? You're still pushing 1 watt of power. That means that you're not wasting all your power over here, but you're pushing all of that power this way. So this could be a range of 10 miles that you could fly. Okay? So if you're flying out 10 miles, what's the difference between here and here? That could be 15 miles or 10 miles. We don't know, right? So again, you're only at 10 to 15, maybe 20 miles tops. Okay? So the next thing that you can do is you can use a tracking system. So wherever the drone flies, the antenna will lock onto the drone, and you're pushing a small beam with 1 watt of power. Now you could go to 2 watts of power, but now you're starting to get into FCC regulations, right? You actually have to have authorization to fly an aircraft using radios with 2 watts of power. So if your drone is here and you fly out, you might be able to go 100 miles. But the tracking system has to track. So wherever the aircraft goes, right? Wherever the aircraft goes, that antenna is going to track that drone. And if you lose lock on that aircraft, then the aircraft has a safety feature that will allow it to come back. So it's a fail safe, right? Most drone people know this stuff. So again, there's a lot of things that are happening with these drones that prove that they are not nefarious in intent. Now, as far as gas is concerned and emitting gas or shooting at stuff, I've seen some of those videos, and that doesn't work for me, because if they're shooting any type of projectile, if they're launching any type of projectile off of an unmanned aircraft, that puts you right up there with Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, right, here in the United States. That's against the law, and you'll go to jail. Now, drones that are, putting off this gas, well, you have to have a special license to do that anyway, right? So it's highly unlikely that they're flying at that altitude and off-gassing this material, whatever it may be. But also, gas or chemicals, water, fuel, they weigh about 6 to 8 pounds a gallon. And so if you have any type of gas that the aircraft is putting off, then your flight time is significantly going to be reduced, because you don't have enough power to keep the aircraft in the air long enough to travel the distance that it takes to go from offshore to the inside of the United States, right? So again, then you have to take the wind in consideration. And these drones are flying at night for cover, but also it's less windy at night. So again, a lot of this stuff isn't making sense to me. I don't believe, again, that these drones have a nefarious intent. I believe they're looking for something, because that's the only thing they can do at night. You can't see shit when you're flying a drone at night using a standard camera. Again, you could do agricultural type stuff, but you would do that during the day. So, and typically, if you're going to do methane gas detection, you typically do that during the day, because you want to see what you're flying into. So, again, none of this stuff makes any sense to me. And, me taking the time to explain all of this to you is very important for me, because I believe that, we are absolutely never going to be told the truth. If you knew what was going on around the world, uh, you would be shocked and you'd be angry. So I'm going to pause this and then start another video. So I'll see you on the third video.
Okay. Interesting. So the way that he's describing it is obviously still in line with saying that, he doesn't believe that there's any nefarious purpose behind these things, that they're probably not adversarial in nature. He still hasn't come out and strictly said, he hasn't explicitly stated that he believes the government is flying these. But what he's saying is that whoever is flying them is trying to abide by the guidelines and rules and regulations of flying drones, like flying no higher than 400 feet, flying with running lights on. And then also the piece about the directions and like the directional capabilities of like how the receivers are receiving signal, and the types of drones, like the either gas powered ones or just electric powered ones, are flying around, and how it seems unrealistic that they're coming from some sort of a platform offshore necessarily. But that's pretty much all that he's saying so far. He hasn't said anything explicitly outside of the norm. Still very unnerving that he's talking about how a nuclear warhead went missing from Ukraine potentially and brought to the United States, from what his friend was telling him. But there's one more part to this, so let's listen to the last piece and see what that last bit is that he had to say, because I want to wrap this piece up.
Okay, here we are in video number 3. I pulled up some videos and photos to just share with you. So this first video, I want to show you what thermal imaging looks like on one of our aircraft. And again, you can just kind of get an idea of why I'm saying what I'm saying, but here you go. So right up here is the thermal, and then right here is your standard image. So kind of hard to see, but you can see that we're zooming in. So there's not a lot that you can see, so again, sorry if I'm not doing a very good job of showing, pointing the camera. Here's another video. You can see the aircraft here, and then you can see what the aircraft sees here. So again, it's difficult, and I'll show you our nav lights. So you can see that's our aircraft. So you might be able to see how the aircraft is just kind of hovering there, and then we're able to move the aircraft along. We can rotate, and then we can fly. And this aircraft, our inspector, is one of the fastest aircraft in the market, and this thing will top out at about 70 miles an hour. So the other thing is that there on the previous video, I had some people kind of doubting my credibility, and I'm going to show you some of this stuff. Not that I really need to, but I'm doing it just because I want to, just establish my credibility right out of the bat here. Okay, right out of the cage. So again, I've been fortunate enough, to be politically active. I'm running for office in 26, and I've been able to meet with presidents, generals, kings, queens, governors, and ministers, around the world. And so this is in Sudan. I'll show you this. So that's Malik Agar, and of course that's me right there. So, and then this is just recently, this is the president of Burundi, and that's myself. So again, for those that
Bro was hanging out with the president of Burundi.
My credibility and what I do.
Interesting.
I'm a factual type of a person, and I'm the guy that will say what others will not say. Sometimes it's to my detriment, but whatever. At least you all know the truth. And so when I run for office in 26 and I do win, I want to do something that that's not really done in office today and have not been done in several decades, and that's just keep everybody informed of what the hell's going on. But there's a lot of nefarious activity going on around the world, and if y'all knew about it, you would not be happy. You would not stand for what is happening to us. So me sharing this video, I'm sure I'm going to get...
When he says that, it sounds to me like he is informed and very aware of a bunch of things that are happening around the world that maybe some of us may not be aware of. But he doesn't necessarily want to like talk about it just yet. I don't know. Interesting thing to say.
A visit, which is fine because I work with a lot of the law enforcement folks anyway, and they know who I am. They know what I do. So I'm here to tell you guys the best assessment that I possibly can. I'm not saying what I'm telling you is absolutely true, meaning that this is just what I see. This is my assessment, right? So if it's not the case, then good for us, right? So again, please share these videos. Let's let everybody out there know how the aircraft work so that you can understand more. When you see the videos, you'll understand more what's actually happening. So again, aircraft shouldn't be flying at night unless you've got a job to do, and that's looking for shit. Okay? So gas leaks, people, military operations, police operations, etc. Okay? They should not be flying at night unless they're providing security or looking for stuff. Okay? Number 2, thermal imaging. Thermal imaging is really about the only way you're really going to see any type of source of anything. Now, using thermal imaging doesn't necessarily mean you can see a gas leak, because remember, thermal imaging measures the variance between temperatures and creates a digital image. Gas, when it leaks out of a pipeline, if it's a slow leak, it will go directly to ambient and you won't really be able to see the gas. That's why we don't use thermal imaging to find gas leaks. We use methane gas detection systems, right? So thermal is if you're looking for hot spots. Okay? The communications, the range of the communications. You got to think about that. You've got to think about your flight duration, battery versus gas. Gas, you're always going to get much longer flight durations. I can take an aircraft, a fixed-wing aircraft, put batteries in it, get 2 hours of flight time. I can put fuel in it and get 18 hours of flight time. So, that's kind of the difference. But multicopters typically do not have gas-powered engines. They're out there, they work fairly well, but they're not going out miles out from the ocean and going inside the United States. It just doesn't work that way. Certain laws of physics that you cannot overcome. So anyway, I hope this has been educational. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments, and if you don't have anything good to say, you can stick it in your ass. This is my assessment, right? So but either way, even if you don't agree with me, I'd like to hear your comments. So y'all have a blessed weekend. Have a great day. And I hope you all have a Merry Christmas coming up. So thank you.
Very interesting. Again, that is John Ferguson from Saxon Unmanned giving us his professional take on that. Now, here's another interesting thing. I had somebody send me a picture of a drone and then a Twitter post from a guy called Jersey Futures. And basically, this guy says a lot of things that are similar. And he's not talking about nuclear warheads or anything, but the guy is talking about drones that are used specifically to detect gamma rays, So I'm going to read some of these too. Guy says, I'm one of a few groups of people who know exactly what the drones are in New Jersey. This tweet will go into the void as I have no followers, but I'll share anyways. Please retweet for reach. What you're seeing are American-made HPGE nuclear detector drones. They can detect the presence of gamma rays miles away. But what is a gamma ray? That is the stuff we attribute to radiation, electromagnetic waves that penetrate you and cause cancer. HPGE drones are built to inspect nuclear sites, but these ones aren't. In the late 2000s, the DoD needed a response to the threat of dirty bombs from ISIL coming into our ports from New York and New Jersey. They've been stocking up on these drones for a while. Some were deployed to Ukraine when Russia threatened the use of dirty bombs. They look weird because they're heavy and have giant cryo coolers mounted and giant horn antennas to communicate on wave frequencies that can't be jammed. This is where I come in. The technology these drones use have a few suppliers, both for wave equipment and the high-purity germanium, the same suppliers that are the backbone of my industry. So what are they doing? Collecting information and how public will react, PSYOP, and testing their ability to sweep a port city like New York for dirty bombs? Jersey was chose because we're the closest port city to New York, and New York would be too dense for reliable wave comms. But why is the DoD silent? Again, because in a scenario we have a threat of a dirty bomb and the public doesn't yet know. The DoD needs to know how the public would react if these deployed to sweep a city. What many don't realize is Ukraine is the reason we're here. That was the first time we deployed them in a combat zone, but make no mistake, they're for protecting the homeland, as DoD bought hundreds of thousands to act as swarms capable of sweeping a city. He said, and I'm sorry for all the typos, I'm on a train. He was like, probably bumped around and stuff like that. I'm on the train home without my glasses. That's very bumpy. Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, I just had to get this off my chest, as all day I'm hearing people genuinely afraid of the drones when they should be in awe of the capabilities we have as a country to keep us safe. And for nerds who know a bit about what I'm talking about, take a look at a close-up of the drones. They operate in grid, both to sweep areas, but also because comms are done in a mesh network operating at 200 gigahertz, which is very directional and needs bulky horn antennas mounted. Should note, not a military expert, but spent 1/3 of my career as an RF engineer. Were only hired in military, telecom, and finance. I'm speculating that this is just a drill. I think it's a Petrodynamics XP4 transwing drone. Note the stubby nose, straight side wings, and long tail with dual forking fins visible in the first, in the picture I showed you. The Petrodynamics XP4 is being developed for the U.S. Navy as a recon and logistics drone capable of picking up and dropping off packages between land and a moving ship, including in high seas and high winds. As the name suggests, it's a transwing design with transitions between quadcopter and fixed-wing modes for both long-range flight and VTOL capabilities. So it can hover pretty much at will. Officially, it has 1 hour flight time at max payload, but could have been upgraded. It's about 13 feet wide by 6 feet long, about the dimensions of a compact SUV. That's pretty big, consistent with witness statements. And its flight path, and he puts a link to a Reddit thread talking about flight paths, leads directly from the coast up to northern New Jersey, and wouldn't you know it, right where it's most commonly seen, we find Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, home of the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, whose whole job is to research, test, and support aircraft for Navy combat operations. This also explains why it's appearing every night and how it's sticking around so long. It literally has a home base to swap batteries at all night long. And why they're not talking about them. It's their drones, and they don't want to advertise. TLDR. At least some of the Jersey drones are most likely experimental VTOL drones being tested out by the Navy, likely running nighttime training missions between Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst at the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division and a Navy ship offshore. Why are the FM radio stations receiving signals from drones flying close by the FM towers in New Jersey? The recent incidents of FM radio stations in New Jersey receiving signals from drones are part of a broader phenomenon of mysterious drone activity in the area. Here's what we know based on available information. Drones near FM towers. There have been numerous reports of drones flying near sensitive infrastructure, including FM radio towers in New Jersey. These drones have been observed in various counties, with some reporting that indicating they fly in coordinated formations and can be quite large, up to 6 feet in diameter, according to Assemblywoman Dawn Fantasia after a briefing with the Department of Homeland Security. Anyway, so it seems to me that there are a lot of different opinions, a lot of differing opinions as to what these things are, where they're coming from, who's using them, who's operating them, who they belong to, and what they're doing. John Ferguson said that he believes that they're potentially looking for something and that they don't necessarily have malicious intent. This guy from this Twitter post is saying that he believes they're looking for, or they're possibly running a test to see if they can scan large areas for a dirty bomb. Now, obviously, John even said, he's like, I'm probably going to get visited for this video. So that's kind of interesting, and he's a military veteran. So, and he's got 25 years of experience with this stuff. So, I mean, he obviously knows what he's talking about. And I don't know this guy from X. I don't know what his experience level is. So there's no way to vet that information. But either way, I know that everybody's been seeing this stuff and I've been seeing it too. And I don't know. I haven't had enough time to research into it to see what this could possibly be. I've seen the videos and stuff coming out all over the place. So you can formulate your own opinion on what you think. I mean, obviously, John Ferguson is a expert in the field of drones and, unmanned system technologies. So I would be inclined to listen to what he has to say. But the one thing I am concerned, or that I don't know for sure, because there's no way for me to vet it, is the piece where he talks about how there is a possible nuclear warhead that went missing from Ukraine and was being sent to the United States. That's something that, I don't know, how do you confirm that? He never said who his friend was that said that apparently he had actually gotten his hands on this thing. And where was it? Where did it leave? Where was it going? How do they know it was coming here? Where was it supposed to go when it got here? A lot of stuff to unpack there. Anyway, I don't know if this helps at all, but let me know what you thought about this in the comments. Let me know if you think John Ferguson is, spot on with it, if he's hit the nail on the head, if, or if you've got other opinions, if you think that it's something else or what. And let me know if you've seen any of these things. I'd be curious to hear what your reactions are to that. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.